Strategist.
Hi, it's Eva Longoria, and let's be real. After 40, we should ask for more from our skincare. I swear by Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oreal Paris. With vitamin C, pro-retinol, and hyaluronic acid, it reduces my wrinkles, firms, and brightens. And it's not a procedure. It's just a hardworking moisturizer.
Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oreal Paris. Grab it today in fragrance-free or with SPF 30. Available at your local Target.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. You know that moment right after you feel clear, that flash where something inside you quietly says, yes, this is it. And then almost immediately, the second wave hits. The wait, what if thoughts. The scroll through old notes, the quick text to a friend, the urge to gather one more opinion before you move. It's like clarity walks in the door and doubt follows her in wearing a blazer that looks like logic. And you're not questioning your ability, you're questioning your permission to trust it. And that's what I want to explore today, because self-trust isn't built in grand moments of certainty. It's built in the quiet seconds when you choose to believe your own knowing before the evidence arrives. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and whether you're a new listener or you're an OG tuning back in, I am so glad that you're here. You know how sometimes an opportunity shows up that looks like the next right move? It checks every box, the messaging's solid, the testimonials are impressive, and part of you thinks, you know, this might be exactly what I need right now. So you say yes. Well, that's exactly where I found myself not too long ago. Just recently, actually. I joined the program that on paper looked like the perfect next step for my business. The structure made sense. The outcomes seemed clear. It was everything I thought it should be and that I should want. But a few weeks in, something started to feel, for lack of a better word I could think of, it just started to feel off for me. Not because the program was bad, it wasn't, but because I could feel my energy tightening every time I sat down to do the work. The conversations were circling topics I'd already lived, frameworks I'd already outgrown. And I remember thinking, why does this feel like I'm moving backwards when I signed up to move forward? So I did what most of us do when we've already said yes, and I just dug in and tried to make it work. I told myself, maybe I'm missing something. I pushed through each week to do the weekly homework. And by the way, it wasn't a traditional program in the sense where there were modules that you would go through or weekly calls. It was just a weekly Facebook posts with weekly to-dos and a monthly check-in call. And so I convinced myself that if I just gave it time, that it would click. But the truth was, I already knew the truth. Every time I sat at my desk, there was this quiet friction in my chest, part resistance, part recognition, a knowing I kept trying to reason my way out of, even though deep down I already knew this wasn't aligned for where I am in my journey. And the longer I tried to ignore it, the heavier that yes began to feel. Until one morning, I caught myself hesitating to complete the homework. And that's when it hit me, finally. I wasn't waiting for clarity to arrive. I was waiting for permission to act on the clarity I already had. So I sent the email, and the moment I did, the heaviness lifted. Not because it was easy, but because it was right. Like it felt right. That decision to talk about the program and essentially bowing out became a reference point for me, a quiet reminder that intuition isn't emotion, it's data. And when you learn to trust it early, you stop needing proof later because deep down, you already know what's true for you. So here's where we're going today. First, we're going to talk about why women like us, even the ones who are confident, capable, and clear, still wait for proof before we fully trust what we already know. Because when you've spent years equating certainty with safety, it's easy to mistake over preparing for wisdom. You tell yourself you're being thorough, but really you're just trying to earn clarity that was already yours. Then we'll look at what that pattern quietly costs, because when you keep searching for external confirmation, every decision starts to feel heavier than it needs to. You replay conversations, recheck plans, second guessing yourself into exhaustion, all while convincing yourself you're just being responsible. But what's really happening is that your intuition is on pause, waiting for you to catch up to what it already decided. And finally, we'll talk about how to start trusting that awareness sooner, how to recognize it as action, not something you have to prove, but something you're allowed to practice. Because when you begin treating awareness as your first checkpoint instead of your last resort, decisions stop feeling like risks and start feeling like alignment. Now, this conversation isn't about making perfect choices, but it is about learning to make peaceful ones, where your confidence doesn't come from more evidence. It comes from knowing that your awareness, your knowing already carries everything it needs to move forward. So let's start with a quiet belief that a lot of high achieving women carry, one that sounds responsible, even wise, but quietly keeps us in hesitation. It's that you can only trust yourself or your decisions after you've seen the evidence, after you've gathered enough data, after you've double checked that everyone else agrees. And you tell yourself, once I'm sure, then I'll trust. Now, it sounds logical, right? You don't want to be impulsive. You want to make smart decisions. But somewhere along the way, what used to be discernment turned into delay. Because instead of trusting your intuition, you research a little longer. You scroll through testimonials just to confirm that you're not missing something. You ask a friend for her take. Then you look for one more voice that matches what you already feel. You replay conversations in your head, not because you don't know the answer, but because certainty feels safer than clarity. And it's easy to justify, right? Because what someone might call procrastination or second guessing, you're calling it being thorough. And you tell yourself, I just want to make the best choice. But underneath it, there's a softer, truer whisper. I already know, I just don't fully trust that I know. What we rarely admit is that this habit, this constant seeking of confirmation, isn't about strategy. It's about safety. It's our nervous system's way of saying, let's not move until we know we won't regret it. Here's the thing. That waiting for certainty rarely brings peace. It just buys you more time to doubt yourself. And while you're busy checking the data, your intuition, that first quiet knowing, it starts to fade into the background noise of logic. We call it being prepared. We call it being responsible. But most of the time, it's hesitation disguised as discernment, as being extra careful. And the cost of that isn't just time, it's energy, it's clarity and momentum. Because every moment you spend trying to earn trust is a moment you postpone your own growth. So now that we've looked at this belief, the one that says you need proof before you can trust what you already know, let's talk about what that belief is costing you. Because while overthinking and double checking can look like wisdom on the surface, underneath they're what slowly drains the very clarity that makes your decisions powerful in the first place. Every time you hesitate to move until you've gathered more evidence, more validation, you teach your nervous system that trust has to be earned, even from yourself. So even simple decisions start to feel heavier than they need to be. You pause before sending an email. You second guess a caption that already sounded right when you wrote it. You spend an extra hour tweaking something that was finished 45 minutes ago. And while it all looks like diligence from the outside, inside, it feels like a loop, one where your brain just keeps whispering to you, just make sure one more time. But what's really happening is this. You're trading momentum for reassurance. You're trading presence for proof. And the cost of that trade isn't just lost time. It's the quiet erosion of your confidence and trust in your decisions. You see, when you're always seeking external confirmation, you never get to feel the internal safety that comes from trusting your own intuition, your own knowing. And that's exhausting when you're constantly checking in with everyone but yourself. When you start telling yourself that you're being thoughtful, intentional, but somewhere between all the checking and confirming, you start to lose connection with the quiet certainty that started it all. Your creativity starts shrinking because every idea now needs to be vetted. Your clarity starts scattering because every decision now has too many voices in it, and your energy starts leaking because you're carrying the emotional weight of keeping yourself convinced. And the hardest part, this pattern masquerades as being productive. It makes you feel busy, focused, in motion. But what it's really doing is keeping you, air quotes, safe from your own expansion. Because as long as you're still figuring it out, you don't have to risk getting it wrong. So you plan instead of act, you perfect instead of publish, and you process instead of decide. And over time, that constant proving creates a powerful disconnect, a gap between what you know and what you allow yourself to live. That's the cost. Because you start confusing external validation with internal safety. You start trusting the feedback loop you created more than your own alignment. And you begin to feel disconnected from your intuition, your creativity, and your calm. And that's what being stuck in proof mode really steals from you. Not opportunity, but ease. The kind of ease that only comes from trusting your awareness before the evidence arrives. Because here's what I want you to understand. You can't build self-trust by waiting for proof. You build it by acting from awareness, by moving when your body already knows the direction, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. And when you start doing that, even in the smallest ways, something shifts, because then you begin to remember what calm clarity actually feels like. Not the kind you chase, but the kind that meets you the moment you stop asking for proof. So you don't want to keep living in your head, rehearsing outcomes or waiting for someone else to mirror back your clarity, do you? You want the kind of calm that doesn't need confirmation, where your peace isn't something you chase after, but something that you carry with you. You want to wake up and feel anchored before the world asks anything of you, to sit with your coffee in the morning and look at your calendar and sense that quiet alignment that says, everything I'm saying yes to today actually feels right. You want to walk into meetings, conversations, or opportunities with that grounded certainty, the kind where your grounded energy speaks first, where your tone slows, your breathing steadies, and the room adjusts to your calm instead of your doubt. And more than anything, you want to stop living in that exhausting middle ground between knowing and acting. I know that because you're ready for your decisions to feel settled, not perfect, but peaceful. You want to trust your timing, right? You want to stand behind your yeses with what you say yes to, with the things that you know are right for you without apology. And you want to be able to stand behind what you say no to without guilt because you have that inner knowing, that awareness to feel at ease even before your results show up, because your confidence doesn't come from proof. It comes from alignment. You don't need more reassurance. You need to trust your voice, to know that subtle, unmistakable confidence that says, I can trust the woman I've become. Because what you really crave is consistency, the kind that comes from knowing that your inner steadiness isn't conditional. It's built in, it's your new baseline. And that's what self-trust makes possible. A life where calm isn't the reward for getting everything right. It's the rhythm that carries you while you're in motion. So let's take a closer look, because this is where everything you've been holding, second guessing, or overthinking starts to move differently. You already know what it feels like to live from your head, to analyze every decision before you even take a breath, to replay conversations, dissect tones, and collect every detail like evidence that will finally prove you're right to trust yourself. And yet deep down, you've always known that peace doesn't come from collecting more proof. It comes from remembering what your awareness already told you. That's where everything begins, right? Awareness, not the kind that lives in a checklist or a strategy, but the kind that shows up in your body before your mind gives it words. It's the moment your breath shortens before a yes that doesn't feel right. The subtle heaviness in your chest when you keep pushing through a day that's already over capacity. the little lift of lightness when something is aligned, even if it scares you a bit. You know those moments. You've just been trained to override them, to treat them as distractions instead of data. But awareness is information. It's your system's first language. And the moment you start listening to it without trying to justify or explain it away, you begin to shift from reacting to regulating and from chasing clarity to creating it. And once you become aware, the next step is alignment. That's where you pause long enough to ask yourself 3 grounding questions, not to overanalyze, but to reorient yourself back to what's true for you right now. And the first question is this: what is this moment trying to show me? Instead of asking, what does this mean about me? Or what if I get it wrong? This question invites curiosity over control. It shifts you from performing certainty to practicing awareness. Maybe this moment is showing you that your body is tired, not unmotivated. Maybe it is showing you that you're trying to fix something that doesn't actually need fixing. Maybe it's showing you next steps that don't require more effort or more confirmation, just more honesty. When you ask what the moment is teaching you instead of what it says about you, you stop chasing validation and you start leaning on yourself, trusting your own intuition as data that deserves to be heard. This is where discernment begins and where you start to rebuild your trust in you. And the second question is, what season am I actually in right now? This one's about context, not comparison, okay? As high achievers, we often measure ourselves against either outside people, right? Other people, what they're doing, or against older, successful versions of who we were. The seasons when everything clicked, when the pace felt natural, when results came faster. But it's important for you to understand that your energy has seasons, and pretending that you're still in summer when your system's asking for winter is where burnout hides, right? So we have seasons in life that we go to. And when you can name your current season honestly, expansion, integration, or recalibration as an example, you give yourself permission to lead from your actual capacity, like where you're at. And that single moment of truth tells your nervous system, I'm safe to be where I am. Because trust doesn't come from doing more and ignoring your cues. It comes from moving at the speed of your own alignment. And finally, the third question, does this choice match the energy I have or the energy I wish I had? This question is the honesty check. It strips away performance and it brings you back to the present moment. The energy I have acknowledges your reality, your body, your brain, your focus, right? Your bandwidth as it is right now. The energy I wish I had exposes the subtle pressure to keep up, to say yes, to maintain momentum that isn't sustainable, to say yes to things and then keep going and trying to look for validation that you made the right decision when you already have the inner knowing that says, maybe I didn't make the right decision, or to stop yourself from making a decision, right? That if you allowed yourself to listen to your intuition that says, yeah, this doesn't fit right now. When you can name that gap, you stop reacting from obligation and you start to respond from integrity. And you stop forcing alignment and you start to feel it. And every time you honor the energy you actually have, when you start to honor your intuition, you remind yourself that your awareness itself is enough for you to move forward. So if your energy doesn't match and when I say your energy, I do mean emotionally and physically, that if it doesn't match that decision, whatever it is that you keep looking for external validation to prove yes or no, your awareness itself is enough to move forward. When you listen to you start to listen to your inner compass. Remember, I want also remind you, it doesn't have to be about slowing down. Because I know a lot of people think, I have to slow down. No, it's not necessarily about slowing down. It's about syncing your pace with your capacity so that what you give actually sustains you, realizing that maybe it's not that you're unmotivated, that you're just misaligned, that your resistance isn't sabotage, it's information. Your system's trying to protect you from pouring energy into something that doesn't fit the woman that you're becoming. And when you stop fighting that, when you allow your alignment to matter as much as your ambition, your entire nervous system exhales. And that's when application becomes natural, not forced, not performative, but fluid, because the action no longer comes from pressure, it comes from presence. It's the moment you take one small action that honors what you noticed. Maybe you say no to that opportunity. Instead of looking for validation that's the right yes move, you start to recognize and honor your intuition that no, it doesn't fit for me right now. Maybe it's that thing or that asks someone wants to get on a call with you. And you know right now it just doesn't fit. Maybe they want you to help them to validate something that they're working on, but it doesn't fit for you in the timeline right now. But then you're looking at it thinking, oh, maybe this is something that could help me. But then you're thinking, well, what's the proof behind that? And you start to overanalyze things. You have to learn to be able to ask yourself these questions that can help you to have that awareness of it. That's where I have the yes reset method, which you've heard me talk about before. But those 3 questions of the 3-question yes filter, where it's like, is this in alignment with where I'm at right now? Would I say yes out of obligation, guilt, or fear? And what would I be trading for this yes? Because that's important to understand, right? So it's taking small actions that honor what you already know, your intuition, your gut instinct, and allowing yourself to say, you know what, I believe this is my knowing. This is true for me. You become so attuned with what you need, understanding that not everything is a yes right now. And I talk about this. The reason why I'm talking about this is because the awareness alignment application is part of the bigger framework of the yes reset method, because it is a support system within it. You have to become aware and aligned so that you can apply what you have decided, whether it's your no, yes, or not right now, right? So again, it helps you to be able to say yes with certainty, no without guilt before it has a chance to negotiate with you, and maybe not right now. And every time you do this, you're teaching your system something that it's been waiting to believe, that it's safe to trust yourself, that it's safe to trust me. You say that to yourself. It's safe to trust me. Now, these 3 questions are more than reflections. They're the mechanics of self-trust in motion, because they take you from outsourcing trust to embodying it, because awareness reopens the channel where you begin to notice before you override. Alignment teaches you discernment, where you interpret what you feel without judgment, and application builds evidence, your evidence from you, because you act from what you know to be true. Together, they turn trust from a mindset concept into a somatic experience, something you feel in your body, not something you chase in your head. It's not a framework you memorize, it's a rhythm you live. And the more often you practice this rhythm, the more your energy starts to recalibrate itself. You start to trust yourself. You stop running on adrenaline. You start leading from unsteadiness. You stop needing to prove your clarity because you're living it. You stop confusing stillness with stagnation because your calm finally has direction. And you start to, again, as I said, trust your intuition, trust your gut, understanding that you don't need to seek validation externally for your choice. And that's the real shift, because then you begin to realize that awareness isn't passive, alignment isn't indulgent, and application isn't perfection, it's participation. It's showing up for you in real time, not when things calm down. So the next time you catch that whisper, that quiet sense of knowing, instead of asking for proof, take a breath, become present. Take a breath, notice what your system's telling you. Ask yourself if that matches who you are in this season, and then take a small action that honors you and what you need. That's how you rebuild trust from the inside out. One moment of awareness, one act of alignment, and one small application at a time. And when that awareness becomes, especially when awareness becomes your first checkpoint instead of your last resort, you stop waiting for permission to trust your decisions, to trust your intuition, to trust yourself, because you already know what you need. So take a deep breath and then think about that part of your life that keeps circling back in your mind, that one decision or relationship or commitment you keep revisiting, not because you need more information, but because you're waiting for a sign that it's safe to trust what you already know. Again, maybe it's a program you've outgrown, or that doesn't fit the season that you're in, that you said yes to and you didn't actually take the time to really think about it, like I shared earlier in this episode around my experience. Or maybe it's a next step, an opportunity that keeps whispering your name. but you keep saying, not yet. I just need a little more clarity. Maybe it's time to be uber honest with yourself because deep down inside, you already know that you're not waiting for clarity. You're waiting for proof. You want someone or something to confirm what your intuition has been telling you for weeks. Either this isn't it anymore, or yes, this is the right move to make. It's time to press play. It's time for me to make a move. Or maybe you already decided, but you're just scared to call it final. Here's the truth. Your awareness is already the data. You already know. Alignment is how you interpret it, and application is how you honor it. So ask yourself, what is this moment trying to show me? What season am I actually in right now? And does this next choice match the energy I have or the energy I wish I had? Because the cost of postponing that knowing isn't safety, it's self-trust. And the moment you start treating your awareness like information worth acting on, you stop waiting for external permission to live in alignment. So here's your micro yes invitation for this week. Catch the first whisper and let it count. When you feel that subtle pull, the pause, the tightening, the little hit of clarity, don't dismiss it. Notice it, name it, and instead of rushing to validate it, let your awareness be enough to take one small aligned action. So again, maybe it's saying no a little sooner. Maybe it's, looking at a new process, a new program that's come across your feed. And it's part of something you think you need maybe down the road, but right now it would just be too much of a disruptor in your flow right now in where you're at in your journey. Whatever it is, let it be the evidence that your nervous system has been craving, because that's how self-trust is rebuilt. Not in the big leaps, but in the quiet moments where awareness finally becomes action. Maybe it's not clarity you've been missing at all. Maybe it's confirmation that your awareness already counts. And if that's your truth, then I want you to pause here with me for a moment, because this right here is where self-trust starts to take shape. It's not the big leap or the overnight transformation. It's the quiet recalibration that says, I already know what's true for me. I just need to learn how to lead from it with more trust in my voice, in my intuition, in what's right for me. And if you're nodding your head, then what you're really tuning into is your own awareness waking up again. That quiet recognition that you don't need more information. You just need a way to trust what you already know and move from it with more confidence. And if you've been chasing after validation and trying to find confirmation that your awareness already counts on its own, then the next step is to book a Yes Reset strategy call with me. And on that call, we'll walk through what your awareness has already been trying to show you, where a misalignment might be quietly draining your confidence or momentum, and how to start rebuilding your self-trust using the awareness alignment application flow we just explored today. Because self-trust doesn't grow through pressure, it grows through presence. And once you have the structure that helps you honor what you know, your intuition, your awareness in real time, clarity stops being something you have to earn, and it becomes how you move. So if that feels aligned for you, book your Yes Reset strategy call through the link in the show notes. So before you move into the rest of your week, I want you to hold this close. Real clarity doesn't come from certainty. It comes from the quiet pause before it. That split second when your body gives you a cue, a lean in, a hesitation, a calm knowing that doesn't yet have language. That's awareness doing its job. It's not asking you to be louder or braver. It's asking you to listen sooner. The more you practice noticing that awareness without rushing to justify or prove it, the faster self-trust becomes your default state. And every time you honor that subtle nudge before it becomes noise, you create a life that moves with more ease, precision, and peace. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope this conversation met you right where you are, in that space between knowing and trusting, and may it remind you that the quiet awareness you feel isn't something to analyze, it's something to honor. Because when you do, everything else starts to move with you, not against you. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me. and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hey everybody, Diego here from the Candle Power Hour and Candle Power Records. Together with Electrocast Records, we proudly present Imperial Highway, a California sampler. 15 singles tracked by artists all based in California. Every song on Imperial Highway is mastered to deliver. Rock and roll is back, and we got what you want. If you're craving new music, Imperial Highway hits the spot. Download Imperial Highway. Check us out at candlepowerrecords.com and listen to the Candle Power Hour on Electrocast.
Electrocast.
You deserve better health care, and so do we all. Medicine in America is a podcast that shares real stories of patients and doctors reshaping the future, because the revolution in care isn't coming, it's already here. Real stories, real change, a better future for healthcare.
Electrocast.